Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you are in the world. And this evening, I'm talking to Doris Walsh, who is from Southampton. Good evening, Doris.
Good evening, Carolyn.
And it's lovely to meet you. We met on a network meeting recently, and it's great to connect with people outside of business. So, with that in mind, my question is, what is it you enjoy when you're not working?
What is it I enjoyed? Okay, well, I'm an avid reader. I love reading,
Hmm.
but I also, and I like that's typically when I'm at home. I love reading, but saying that though, my Kindle, I always have my Kindle with me or a book with me wherever I go. And that's something that's kind of a habit that we kind of instilled in ourselves and also our kids. We've got two audit children. And so they carry their books with them wherever we go as well, so that there is no time to just sit there and whatever else. So I do that. But we love traveling. I love traveling. Learning about different cultures.
Hmm.
I'm a big foodie, so eating lots of
Well,
different
I suppose
types of
that
food.
they go hand in hand, don't they? Sort of the
Yes,
culture, the traveling. So is that traveling more abroad as opposed to in this country? I suppose with the culture element, it would be more abroad. So
yes,
do you
yes.
do a
So
mix, a
we
mix of traveling?
Yes, we do a mix of traveling. So as you said, I'm in Southampton, but my parents are actually up in Glasgow.
Yes,
So every summer, if we're in this country, we do take a drive up to Glasgow, and then we could try and stop somewhere in between, instead of
yes.
a straight just 8 hour drive, we might just stop somewhere that we haven't been in the UK to stop off and see. But most of my travels have typically been abroad, different parts of the world, and we try to hit different places or different countries. But my parents are I'm Chinese from Hong Kong, so
Yes.
that side is from Hong Kong. So every couple of years we'll head to Hong Kong at the same time as my mum and dad, visit the kind of extended family, and then from there we use that as a base to you go to Thailand, Malaysia, Singapore,
Gotcha. Yeah.
Vietnam, wherever, and do it that way every couple of years, type kind of thing, depending on
Mm.
what else is going on. But yes, typically further away.
And do you go to countries outside your own culture, as it were? So countries that are linked with China, Hong Kong.
Yeah,
Do you go sort of further afield than that?
yes, we do. We've been to kind of like to Mexico.
Hmm.
So on that side, I guess we tend to kind of veer towards kind of Southeast Asia.
Yes.
One, because of the food. We really like the food there. And it's an easy stop, right? Because one, we get to do
Yeah.
kind of two things at Sundays, get to see some family and then go off and do all that kind of thing. We've been to the US. I've been to the US, not with the children. Well,
Hmm.
we've been to like the Dominican Republic and Saint Lucia and all those kind of areas as well. So we're not just tied to kind of Southeast Asian cultures, just we have a preference for that kind of
Yeah.
the food, especially my son. He really likes spicy food, so going to Thailand is
Oh,
always easy. Whereas my daughter doesn't particularly like spicy, so we kind of sit
yeah.
there like, yeah, but she can. She just says she doesn't, if you know what I mean. So yeah,
Yeah.
we like to go that way, and then sometimes I think it depends on the season as well. So we tend to go um in the kind of October time when the kids have their holidays, obviously, or in the summertime. And in the summertime, we don't tend to go to Southeast Asia because it's too hot and it's too humid.
Mm.
So we then kind of either stay in Europe or somewhere else rather than that way. But Easter and October time, that's time when we go. If we do have time, we head down to Southeast Asia because the weather then works and it's not too hot.
Yes. And it's
Yeah.
interesting, isn't it? I think wherever you go, you've got even within the Asias, you've got different cultures,
Yes.
and you've got different foods, haven't you, as well? So,
Yes. Yes.
it's
Yes.
really quite diverse if you think about it. If you sort of
Hmm.
dissect it down, it's really
Yeah,
quite
yeah.
diverse.
It is. It is very, and actually, it's really quite interesting how some of these countries are quite close together. But I guess, if you can put it back into our country, when you go from England to Wales or to Scotland, it's all quite
But
different
yeah,
as well, right? And that's only a few hours away from each other. Never
yes,
mind,
thousands of
having to
miles.
fly. Yeah, yeah, exactly, on a plane and whatever else. So yes, we do. we do enjoy it, but I think for us, it's not just the culture, it's also kind of showing our kids different parts of the world too,
Yes,
because we are so privileged here in the UK,
we are.
right? In a lot of ways when you look at, how other people don't live. So we use that as a, hey, kids, don't, because it's that whole entitlement thing,
Yeah,
because they have all the schools here, and they have food in their tummies, and they can't sit in the car and all this kind of stuff. And it's kind of like, not everyone is like this, kids, right? So
yeah.
this is one of the reasons why we take them traveling as well, so that
Mm,
they can see a different part of the world, because as I say to my husband, it's like, well, we can afford to take them traveling now. That's
mm.
not to say that we can forever can do, right?
Of
But
course.
right now we're having fun and they enjoy it. And so, and that allows us to see the world through their eyes a little bit as well, because I
Mm.
never traveled when I was a child.
Right. Okay. Yes, and
Yeah.
I suppose it's I was the same really. When you grow up at a certain period of time, and when I was growing up in the 60s, parents couldn't
Yeah.
rub two feathers together.
That's right.
And you think looking back, it's actually not that great deal of time away. It's really a short span of time
Yes.
from now to back then. And you see everything. It's really accelerated, isn't it? Travel and food and learning about different cultures. And as you say, it's an education for children to
Yeah, it
show
is.
that
And
that you might be privileged enough to be able to travel, but you
yes,
see areas of countries where they're really poverty stricken, far more than
yes.
we were back then in the
Yeah.
60s when I was growing up. And it's interesting. And I think children learn a lot more perhaps by seeing things and sort of reacting within the situation rather than seeing it in a film or
Yes.
on a documentary. They're
Yeah.
actually seeing it for real, and I
Yeah.
think
They're
that actually,
experiencing. Yeah.
yeah, it makes quite an impression.
Yes, it does. It does. I think I think it's like anything else, even not just for kids, it's for ourselves as well. When we're actually physically
Yes.
in the environment or physically doing it, you learn in a different way than
Mm,
just absorbing it from whatever, from a book or from a program or something like that. You're in it, right? And it's the smells, it's the noises,
mm,
you use all your senses then, right?
yes.
To experience whatever it is that you're doing. But you say it is just a little snapshot, right? You go for a week, 2 weeks or something like that, but it's that, okay, so let's hope it just makes an impression,
Mm,
to say, hey, actually, I've learned something here, right?
yeah.
And fortunately for us, we've had a kind of an international kind of family life. We've always traveled with the kids, but we've also moved countries with the kids because of our jobs. My husband and I, we used to work together, same company, and the company would send us to different places. So we take
Oh,
our kids.
okay.
So they
Yeah.
were very flexible from that perspective, right? So they were like, okay, here we go. Here's a new school, right? There you
Yes.
go. Just get on with it, type kind of thing. So
Yeah.
we've been very fortunate to be able to do that.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think
Yeah.
that teaches children, to be adaptable. And if
Yeah.
they're doing that at a young age, that actually sets a great tone for them as they grow older.
Yeah, you would hope so, right? But all we can do, as the way I look at it, it's like I used to, be really kind of, I guess, het up and quite controlling in a way about, what my children should do. As I've gotten older, I'm kind of like, what, kids, this is what life is, because all there is change,
Yeah.
right? We change every single day. You're not the same person as you were a year ago. And that's all we try to do, is give them experiences,
Mm.
give them the opportunities, right?
Yes.
And try it. Because if you don't try, how do you know, right? Because it's so easy to say, no, I don't like it, because you've never tried it before, right?
Yes.
It's so easy to say, right? And
Yeah.
then actually that helps for me, because as we get older, we become a bit more stuck in our ways, right? And then I hear myself talking to my kids and I say, hey, but you know what it's like, right? It's
Yeah.
kind of like, no, why don't you try it, right? Try it. And then I'm like, yeah, and I am saying I've got to learn something new, techie or something like, yeah, I'm not gonna, no, I'm just not gonna do it. Yeah, okay, you got to walk the talk too, Doris.
Yeah.
So that's kind of fun, when you have that kind of awareness to go, oh,
Yeah.
actually, trying to kind of do as I say, not as I do, right? That
Yeah.
must be when they were much younger. Now it's kind of like, no, no. I'm going to do what it is I say too, right? So they're teaching me sometimes when I'm more than I'm teaching them,
Yes.
right? Which is just awesome. But yeah, the whole traveling thing is we enjoy it as a family, and that's that's where we make our memories. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think then they have this sort of they've been taught this kind of um, foundation in a way, and that sets them in life. You go out of your comfort zone, as you well know, as us as adults, oh
Yeah.
no, can't do that. I mean,
Yeah.
children, you get to a certain age, and then all of a sudden, oh, yeah, what are the consequences of doing that? And you didn't even think about that when you were a child.
Yes. Exactly. Exactly. We become kind of too narrow sometimes,
Yeah.
right? And we become too serious, right? And
Mm,
and this is why, my kids are, kind of tweens. So it's kind of nice to see it from their perspective because there's still quite a lot of play, right? So it's kind of like, yeah, no, actually, life doesn't need to be that serious.
mm.
And I think that's for me is one of the biggest gifts about having kids is, you get to see a different viewpoint that I've forgotten, right?
Yeah.
Because, it was childhood now and you had all this, work and all this kind of stuff, studying and all that kind of stuff. And no, this is now about, yes, I have fun, but it's fun is in it's kind of like you can't just have fun as a normal, you kind of have to create opportunities to have fun, and kids
Yeah.
don't do that, right? They're just like, it's funny, and so right now, and it's fun,
Yeah.
right? And you just giggle, right? And you kind of
Yeah.
like, whereas you can't do that when you're sitting in a meeting and suddenly a funny thought comes in, you can't
Yeah.
just go and giggle, right? Because everyone will start looking at you, it's like, well, what the hell's what you're doing, right?
Yeah.
you know and that, I think, brings the fun bit into their life. So, and yes, with the whole traveling thing, we have all that, but at the same time we also have the not so fun bit, right? When
Mm.
kids get tired and we all start getting a bit crabby and we all start, whining at each other, and it gets too
Oh,
hot
yes.
as it is just now in the UK, right? And you're sitting there like tempers just gets, come on, I asked you, normally you ask them 5 times, and now when it's hot, it's kind of you ask them once and don't let me repeat myself, right? Because seriously, I'm so hot.
Yes. Yes, it's interesting. And then it'd be interesting again, go, going on a few years when they're all grown up and have their own families. It'll be interesting to see whether the same patterns
Yeah, it
form
will be.
themselves.
Yeah, although I keep saying to my kids, like, yeah, I'm looking forward to when you guys leave my house, right? Because I'm going to change the locks. You don't get to automatic come back in. I'm going to travel the world by myself, not having to worry about anything else. And when you want to come and see me, well, you just have to pay your own ticket because I just expect to be this kind of social butterfly, right? All those kinds. This is my plan. My husband keeps saying, Doris, keep on dreaming, right? I was like, hey, but at least I have a plan, right?
Well,
Might not
yes,
come
we can
into
we can plan all we like. Whether it actually pans
exactly.
out is a totally
Yeah,
different
well,
ball game,
exactly
isn't
right. Yeah,
it?
exactly right. Exactly right. So yeah, no, it will be interesting, and like you
Yeah.
say, but like you're saying, with how how fast things are changing now,
Oh, yeah.
I don't think, and things seem to be changing so much faster than it
I
ever
think they are.
has, isn't it?
Mm.
Yeah, yeah. What's your view on that? Yeah,
Yes, I think they are. And I think it's the same with everything. I mean, you have time spans when people's, looking at things, and the time span is gone.
yeah,
Nobody concentrates for more than sort of 5 seconds on one thing. They flit and flitter from one thing
yes,
to another, and it is quite interesting. So maybe that may change. Who knows? I would hope that it might, because I think that element of things, I think it needs to change, not so fast. I think that some areas need to slow down and some maybe speed up. I don't know, but I think that people's concentration, it seems to go all over the place, and
yeah.
and
No,
yeah,
I
it's
yeah, I'd agree with you, especially when it comes to like kind of attention span, because I think especially with social media, although that's been great, right? It's given us huge amount of opportunities in terms
yeah.
of how we do business and all that kind of stuff. And with everything, there's positives and negatives, right?
Oh,
And it's
absolutely.
that
Yeah.
but it just, that speed of how fast things go, you kind of, it's literally is, you got to run, right, to stay on the
Yeah,
spot,
you have.
and there's just no time to really kind of sometimes absorb, sometimes I think,
Mm.
just to kind of just sit. So, which is, and with the work that I do, I kind of just like, there is no time for rest. When I remember when I was a child, right, and I was born in the 70s, it's kind of like, well, program didn't start on television, if you had a television, until 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and you had to wait, right? And we'd be okay waiting, right?
Yes.
And then you would see it on a Monday, every Monday or something.
Hmm.
And if you missed it, you missed it. There was no fast forward or
No,
rewind or skipping it or nothing,
no.
right? And I compare that with what our kids do, which basically I can pause it if
Yeah.
I, suddenly want to go get a drink or need to go, for a little break or whatever else. We never could do that,
No.
right? You could, but we'd miss the program. And the
Yeah.
kids just nowadays, when I look at mine, I'm kind of like, well, can we pause it? And I'm like, no, you need to arrange yourself to make sure that we were going to watch this movie. You knew it. We planned it. Why didn't you sort yourself out before? And then we have to pause it.
Mm.
Okay, it's only for a minute or whatever. But it's just that interruption.
Yeah.
People's attention span are shorter as well. So I
Yeah.
think, like, I agree. I'm not quite sure which bits need to slow down and which bits need to,
No, I don't.
go faster. But something might change again, right? We
Well,
will never
yes.
know.
I think
Yeah.
I think things they go in spates, don't they? So I
Yeah.
think I
Yeah.
think that within time, perhaps something might slow down. Let's
Yeah.
hope that it does.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Who
Um,
knows?
but yes, I think it's great that you're showing your children, some good levels of sort of foundation, some good cultures, and some traveling, and living in the moment, understanding other people, and getting on with other people.
Yeah.
Is all so important, isn't it? I think, and yes,
Yeah.
I think it,
Yeah, and I think it's one of you. Actually, I was having this conversation with a friend last week. We were talking about the education system, and actually, versus when I was a child in Glasgow going to school, not a huge amount in terms of the education system has changed in terms of the subjects. There's certain things like mental and the kind of whole well-being, right? I didn't have that when I went to school. That's a big thing now, right? As it should have been, as it should be. But in terms of life skills, I don't the curriculum hasn't really moved
no,
on, right? Because that's what's the really important bit, really, right? When you're talking about individuals, kids grow up to be adults and understand what life is real about, like simple things like opening a bank account, interest rates, right? All that's really quite fundamental, but
yeah,
they don't get taught that at
no,
school. Okay, I'm a parent, so yes, I might want to, but as a parent, you can't teach your kids, right? I mean, if I had to teach my kids, I think I'd be in prison now for murder, right? I mean, I would. Right? It's like there's no way, right?
yeah,
There's a reason why I really hate holidays, and we have to take them away because I don't know what else to do with my kids because they're home for such a long period of time, and I'm like, no, you should be at school, right? School holidays are a working parent's nightmare, right? But it's fun as they get older, it gets a bit easier. But like you say, it's that what is it with technology that is happening so that actually some of the skills our kids aren't developing now or should do, and things that they may not need anymore, and I keep saying to my kids, I'm like, especially like things like maths that you currently do at school, I'm like, it doesn't matter whether you're really good at it. I still expect you to try hard, but a lot of the things that you're learning now you don't actually need to know. There is a thing called Alexa, right? Alexa, what's this? And Alexa was a Google, right? And Chat GPT and all these other
yeah,
things will give you the answer. But what they can't give you the answer yet about is, like you said, about is getting on with people, right? Having, when there's a disagreement, how to handle that, right? All these life things,
like well,
an app.
it's life skills, isn't it?
Yes, yes, an app can't help you open a bank account really as
No.
yet, right? You need to go and see them and get a loan and all this kind of stuff. Okay, a lot of things you can do online, but you need to know how to answer those questions and understand what's going on, right? And they don't teach that. So that'll be an interesting to see whether how that evolves over time. I
Yes,
hope it
it will.
does. I
It
hope it
will.
does.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But we're up against time, so it's been a great conversation,
Yes,
and
thank
very
you.
interesting because as I say, I ask everybody the same question, and it's fascinating where it actually leads
It's good.
to. So it's been a great conversation, and learning about a little bit more about you and your family. And how your hopes for your children growing up, and what the future holds, and so on. So thank you so much for joining me this evening.
No, thank you for your time, Carolyn.